Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. What can I say? Keron Rose has many descriptors: Digipreneur, DigiBoss, Disruptor, Digital Strategist, and Media Personality. Now, hope you have your note taker with you. He joins us now. Mr. Rose, how are you doing?
I'm very good, DK. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. I don't know if to feel special or to feel like a statistic because you're just all over the place. You're just all over the place. But I want us to start off, please, getting a little insight into some of the method in your madness in terms of how much of a difference do you see between traditional and new or digital media?
So I think we're at a time now where both traditional and digital media, they go hand in hand when you are trying to build your digital presence and, raise awareness about your business. We still have many people that would prefer to pick up a paper and consume content. We still have a lot of people that listen to radio. I mean, look how many cars are on the road. The majority of them are tuned in on the radio. And we still have a lot of people that will watch on TV. But those traditional platforms all have digital benefits as well. So, during one of our workshops that we would have done, we would have been showing the relationship where something that gets printed in the papers then gets uploaded to the website could show up on a Google search, but then would show up on the #1 news platforms in the world, which is Apple News and then Google News, right? So that's a symbiotic relationship right there. You have people that listen to our radio stations from around the world because they're utilizing either the website to watch the live stream or any one of the million radio applications. The diaspora still wants to stay plugged into what is happening. So there's a big symbiotic relationship with traditional media and digital media. And I think now more businesses or people building a brand need to understand both sides if they really want to build a robust digital presence.
One of the things I hear a lot bandied about now is digital asset management. And I want to ask, how do you define digital assets? And to your view, are they created equal?
So digital assets, if you are building a business, there's a number of them that I think all businesses should kind of tap into. There are assets that are going to help you to, build your digital presence, like your website. When you're looking at platforms like the search engines, the AI tools, they all get their information from the internet. And we are the people that through our websites, when we create content, populate the internet that informs the search engines and thereby informs the AI tools, right? And then you have the digital assets that are going to allow you to get yourself paid. So if you are in business and you want to be able to get paid from around the world, having things like your digital products, courses, your website, that way you could even sell your products. These are some of the things that you're going to want to have in tow. So not everything is going to be created equally, but everything has its purpose, whether it's going to be to help you in building and being discoverable, whether it's going to help you sell a product or be able to get paid, or whether it's an asset that's going to allow you to build community. So like social media is considered a digital asset, and that's going to allow you to build community. You could also, if you have a membership website, that's one of the critical digital assets if you want to sell knowledge, but you can build a community around that knowledge as well. So there's a number of digital assets, but they're all going to be created differently, but they all have a different purpose. But when they all come together and they give you that digital ecosystem, that's what's going to allow businesses to really thrive in this time ahead.
I think some things we may see a little faster than others. And I think because we see something a little more in our face, we can get a little skewed as to where it should be on the pantheon of things. And so with that in mind, I think you're one of the best people in terms of fit for purpose to give us that definition between an earned platform and an owned platform.
Yeah. So the owned platform is the platforms that you control, the platforms that you build. So a good example would be your website. You own your website. You have full reign to put anything on your platform. A great example of earned media would be just like what we're doing right now. Unless you are doing something of note, that's when media is going to reach out to you to have a conversation and put you on their platforms, and you're going to be able to tap into their audience and get your voice out. So when you have your own platforms, things like your website, your email list, SMS list, your push notification list, those are platforms that you can build. But earned media is when another platform is going to reach out to you and bring you onto their platform for wider discourse.
But I think sometimes when people say, well, Keron say I need to have my own platform, I need to make a website. So you just look for the fastest thing. And then you may, after the fact, realize, shucks, these are some of the things that I should have taken or I should have factored into or taken into consideration. Is that checklist, a basic checklist that you'd want to look at and say, okay, yes, I want a website, but this website as a tool that I'm going to be using needs to be able to do this, this, this for me. What are some of those things?
So without making the list too long, there's one important factor that if everybody gets right, you'll be well on your way. And that is checking to see whether or not you can get paid from the platform, because that is very different for people that are living in the Caribbean. Most times you're going to Google, what's the best way to get a website? What's the fastest way to get a website? What's the best website for products? And you're going to get information from people from around the world in different markets. What happens in the Caribbean is people lack the discernment to know what is relevant to somebody else's market and what is relevant to our market. So what happens is we dive in headfirst on some amazing information from somebody in a completely different market, and you start the process. You might even hire a developer. You spend your money. It takes weeks, months to get this thing up and running. And then when it comes down to getting paid for your product or service, you realize, wait a minute, I actually cannot receive money. And that was because you were edified by somebody who was never talking to you. They were speaking to the people in their market. So for us in the Caribbean, the most important thing is you need to find out first, can I get paid from the platform? So you have some amazing platforms like Shopify, WordPress, Wix, Squarespace. When you're checking these platforms, the first thing you run to is the payment section. What payment processors do they use? Is there any Caribbean payment processors like WePay, First Atlantic Commerce that are able to integrate into these platforms? And if you could use a Caribbean payment gateway, then you're going to be able to get paid. And if anything happens, there's a physical building that you could run and throw some rocks at if anything happens, right? But when you're using some of these platforms like a PayPal or a Stripe where they're not here, they don't have a presence in the Caribbean, if anything does happen, and you could run into some problems. So start with understanding how to get paid on the platform. And if you see that there's no pathway to you getting paid on the platform, then you leave that platform alone. Or if it costs too much money and you're unable to afford it, leave that platform alone. So once you understand the payments, you can pick and choose whatever platform you want.
I like the fact that the conversation goes between physical and tangible as well as navigating digital platforms. And there's something that you would have said, and I want you to expand on it a little bit, please, in the sense that people are real, but many customers are digital. So to be able to have the opportunity, so people, they don't need to be DMing you and saying, well, how much for this? And if I could, as opposed to having something that takes care of that. Is in your experience, do you have an idea of why so many people, they say, okay, well, we set up a website, but we don't necessarily go as far to have that e-commerce platform or to be able to turn real people into customers, and this is even on the digital platforms?
It's work. It's hard. It's hard. And I think one of the biggest challenges up front is that the vast majority of people are starting businesses don't see themselves as business owners. This is a side hustle. So when you are in side hustle mode, you're just looking for for a quick turnaround of money. We're going to buy a product from one place, we're going to turn around and sell it locally. So if I'm in the mindset of a side hustler, I just want to throw up a Facebook page, throw up an Instagram page, and get that product out as fast as I can. And I'm not really thinking about what types of infrastructure I need to really grow a business, because mentally, I don't even think of myself as a business owner. That is the biggest problem in Trinidad. Most people think of themselves as side hustlers and not actual business owners. And when you're in that frame of mind, you're not going to think about building the type of structure that's going to create customers, right? When you do decide, okay, this is an actual business and now I'm willing to make the investment, I think the next part is that people underestimate that all of this is actual work. They think to themselves, okay, I can just find somebody who is selling websites for cheap. I'm seeing guys offering websites. They'll build you an e-commerce website for 900 TT dollars. So they're like, all right, cool. Let me jump on that. Spend my 900. Now I have an e-commerce website. And people don't know that just like if you have a physical brick and mortar store, where part of that is going to be you having a physical location, but then you still have to get people to find you and actually take the time to drive, you still have to put in a different type of work that requires a different skill set to drive people to now go to your website. And then there's a level of trust that you have to build in your customers, because now they're not face to face. Now you're asking people who have never have met you to trust you that they're going to give you their money and you are going to give them a product or service. Most people underestimate the work that goes into that, or they just downright don't want to do it because it's too much work. However, we know that Trinbagonians are willing to do that, because think about how much money we spend on Amazon, on Walmart. One segment of business every year that generates a growing business every year is the skybox companies. Every year they talk about more and more parcels are coming in because more shopping is being done online. And when you ask customers, well, why do you shop on Amazon versus local people? One of the main things is that, one, I trust Amazon. That's the biggest thing. We trust the international platforms. We don't trust local businesses, and they're not doing what needs to be done to build that trust. And then second, do you understand your market enough to bring in the right types of products? Because most businesses are just trying to find the cheapest things they can get to then sell locally. But when you're operating in the online space, now you have the world of choice. You are directly competing with Amazon. You are directly competing with Walmart. And because most business owners just don't want to face that reality, they're not willing to do what's necessary to really grow that business and build that trust.
So on that note, we're going to let that idea and those concepts breathe for a moment. We take a short break. We are speaking with digital strategist Keron Rose. We return after this. Welcome back. I don't know if your mind has been blown thus far in the first half of the conversation with digital strategist Keron Rose. We're in for some more, but this time, for this side of the conversation, I want to fasten your business a little more, please, Mr. Rose.
No problem.
Sometimes it feels as though you are the digital version of the person that we'd find in many newscasts, but in only too wicked, in the sense that naming and shaming people who are trying to get one person to do everything. Literally build bricks like the Israelites in Egypt. And what are some of the things that you see online that cause you to speak to some of these things?
Oh boy. I think when it comes to the new skill sets that are booming and blowing up all over the world, I don't think businesses in the Caribbean, not just in Trinidad, because this is a Caribbean-wide problem, I don't think they have taken the time to actually understand what these skill sets are about, how they are supposed to work within your organization, and also what to expect, right? And part of that challenge is that a lot of the companies are afraid to upskill their talent because they feel like if I invest in the talent, they're just going to take the new lessons and leave. Or you have a group of people that are fulfilling a role that may no longer be relevant to today's day and age, but the company doesn't have strong HR or industrial relations understanding to know how to now coach these people out. and they don't want to get rid of the people that are no longer needed because they are in fear of industrial relations. What that leads to now is they are capped in terms of budget. So they know they have new additional needs. They know they need to be online. They know their customers are there. They know they need to get the infrastructure and the people to manage that infrastructure to help them converting the online sales into real world money. But you don't have the budget to hire the appropriate amount of people, which leads now to them saying, all right, well, we have these 7 things that we need, but we only have budget for one person. So yeah, we're just going to throw it at one person and hope that we get through. And what happens is they hire somebody, the person is probably desperate or not the best place in their life, or they think that, hey, I'm new to the industry, so let me just get some experience. And they take on the role, but then they last for 2 to 3 months because they either get fired for underperforming or they realize I can't do all of these things, and then they quit and the cycle continues. And what should be happening is when companies take the time to understand what the roles are that they want and need and what goes into them, then you can start thinking of, well, if I don't have the budget, let me tap into the global workforce, because there are freelancers from around the world where your small budget can get people from around the world to freelance, and you can get those skill sets. So there's a lot of learning about the new roles and new skill sets and how to integrate them into a business in 2024 and moving forward.
Speaking about learning and speaking about 2024, was it a light bulb that went off for you? Or was it a gradual capacity building that allows you to operate the way that you do, which is a manner that is kind of flexible in the sense that not necessarily beholding to any one person, because you have different revenue streams, different ways that you go about doing it, doing what it is you do. So was it bolt a lightning out to the blue saying that this can be done a little differently? Give us some of those signposts along the way, thanks.
Yeah, no, great question. It definitely was gradual. This is work that has been happening within the last 8 years. And I think the big light bulb moment was, when I moved to Trinidad 10 years ago. So I'm officially in Trinidad for 10 years now. And when I moved, I was able to see a lot of the gaps because I'm coming from Canada. So I have a standard as to how things should be. So when I came to Trinidad, I realized, okay, we're not doing a lot of the things that I'm seeing back in Canada, and I'm starting to see why some of these things aren't happening. It allowed me now to craft some strategies that would work in my benefit. So I started off as a tech blogger. So I was blogging about smartphones. I used to work at Apple, and I used to work at another tech company called TELUS in Canada. And part of that was the education around technology, right? In Apple, there are workshops that are happening teaching people about your phones, your iPads, how to do photography, how to build apps, how to build games. Everything is about education with these tools. But in Trinidad, there is nowhere you can go in the entire country, doesn't matter what sector. There's nobody teaching you at that level how to do things within their own remit. So I started to teach about, smartphones and whatnot. In teaching about smartphones, I was starting to gain a following. And the next logical question people started to ask was, hey, I want to purchase some of the products that you're talking about. Or, hey, this is what I do. Could you recommend me the right phone, the right applications to get the job done? That led me to opening up a brick and mortar store. And because I was creating so much content and doing workshops, I started to get partnerships with various companies around the Caribbean that allowed me to close down the brick and mortar store. This is back in 2018. Close down the brick and mortar store and go 100% e-commerce, where everything I was doing was digital. So the workshops I was doing, the content I was creating, the sales that were generating to go back to my website, I had to learn all of these skill sets to market myself and do e-commerce to grow my business. And at some point around 2019, right before the pandemic, I was teaching businesses how to get these assets together for their own business, because people started to ask me more about how I was building the business of Droid Island than about the actual phones itself. And because I was in the smartphone industry from 19, I thought it was a great way to kind of pivot, still be in the tech space, And my newfound love for digital technology and e-commerce and digital marketing allowed me to really, dive into that career path moving forward. Where now I'm at this point where I'm educating about digital skills, digital literacy, digital marketing, e-commerce from a Caribbean perspective. And you don't really have many sources out there that have come back from the US or Canada and figured things out in how to grow that business, from a Caribbean perspective. So it's really allowed me to kind of hone in on that. But again, this was a 10-year journey where every single year I was kind of skill stacking and just solving multiple problems that have allowed me to get to where I'm at today.
I'm going to steal some time because we're almost out of time. But the two questions I want to kind of pack together in a minute and a half that I'm stealing. In the sense that answer the person who's working on the digital presence, but they're only thinking locally, as well as answer the person who's saying, I want to get these skills. I'm not sure I have the money with the little dust or the capital that I'm putting together for my business itself. How can I get better at evolving my digital platforms?
Yeah, great question again. So for me, when I first started, I did not have no budget to go and buy courses or to really buy anything. So I spent a whole lot of time on YouTube University, learning as much as I could about building my websites, learning as much as I could about e-commerce. I also got on LinkedIn and I was networking like crazy. So anybody that was related to or working at any of the companies within the e-commerce business in the Caribbean, I was networking with them so I could understand how their tools work and how I could integrate them, right? When I started to get a little bit of money, I then started to invest in books. Books are one of the cheaper ways to start getting knowledge, but then you also have tons of free courses available on platforms like SEMrush Academy and also HubSpot Academy. So I was taking the digital marketing and e-commerce courses and the advertising courses for free. Then I was investing in books. So start small with free courses, YouTube, and then books and kind of go from there. And for the people who are only thinking about local, your focus really should be on having a local focus, but understanding how can I build global reach? Because people want Caribbean culture, they want Caribbean products, they want Caribbean services. It's your job now to build your digital presence so that they can find you. And when they do find you, do you have the mechanisms in place that they can transact business with you digitally? That way you can take a customer from Japan, they can purchase the product, and then you have the logistics partners in place right here in Trinidad that can get your product, if it's physical, to someone in Japan, or if it's digital, digital allows for scale, and now you can serve anybody anywhere in the world at any point in time.
And I'm not even going to ask you for contact information because you are one person. I've heard Shaquille O'Neal say it as well. I'm Googleable. So once somebody types in Keron Rose, all the information is going to pop up. So we want to thank you very much for your time, sir. And on behalf of the entire TTT News team, this has been In Depth with me, Dike Rostant. Thank you so much for joining.